This week I've decided to ditch my laptop and write my book by hand. If you're new here, I'm Katie. I'm a writer based in York in the UK. I'm currently drafting a gothic horror novel about the fall of an all-women cult and the strange woman that's left behind. I'm in the early stages of redrafting the book from scratch. I have written the first draft before and decided to toss it in the bin, so I thought this would be the perfect time to try something new. I know lots of authors swear by writing by hand, especially for drafting their books, including my good friend Jessica George, who is a New York Times best-selling author. Now, Jess actually drafts all of her books by hand, and I've always been so curious and wanted to give it a go. Probably every day I'm writing a list by hand and I journal, but I haven't really considered committing to drafting a book by hand. So I'm curious to know how the process is different, if it helps me with things like writer's block and perfectionism, if I get more work done. I don't know, so we'll see. It is a slightly overcast Saturday right now. I'm hoping the sun will come back out because I'm gonna head into York, into the city, have a little look around Toppings & Co, which is a brand new bookshop that's opened here. Topping & Co is an independent chain of bookstores, but the one they've opened in York is super exciting because I think it's now the biggest independent bookstore in the country. I'm gonna have to fact check that. I know it's over lots of floors, it's really pretty, so I'm excited to go and take you guys with me. And then tonight I'm gonna properly start the challenge of drafting my book by hand. Okay, let's go. Good evening. I actually was writing in my notebook, but the camera wasn't working, so I don't have any footage of it. I did enjoy myself. I got very wrapped up in it, which I didn't expect. I thought it would be very clunky and very difficult to focus, but it was really calming. And even when I'm writing on my laptop or a computer, I tend to avoid distractions fairly well, but they are always within reach, which is a distraction in and of itself, because I'll think, oh, I could just check my messages or I could check my emails or something. So I didn't do any of that, obviously. I didn't even look at the camera, which, yeah, I think normally I would have thought of that. I don't know. I wrote quite a bit, maybe not as much as I would like to have written. I think writing by hand is just slow. I didn't realize how slow, but maybe I'm just fast at typing. There's less immediacy in it, obviously, but I don't think I quite realized how that would feel. It was a little bit frustrating at times, but I got quite a bit down. I think the difficulty for me is that I am very early into this draft and I've had a few attempts at rewriting the beginning. So I know that there are existing bits of writing on my computer in a couple of different documents, you know, where I've tackled this so far. And even if I didn't think it was good enough to keep and just carry on after that, I know that there's bits and pieces I want to keep, even if I am discarding those versions, if that makes sense. So I did find myself wanting to look in those documents and take bits and pieces and write them in here. And I just thought, it's Saturday. I'm going to try and do this for a whole week until Friday probably. And I just need to be able to focus and build that muscle a little bit, because part of the reason I want to do this is to build a better attention span. I think all of us could all do with improving our attention span. I don't know, maybe you have a great attention span. I struggle with mine. I do like to get lost in tasks. I like to get into flow state. I like to focus. but it can be really hard, and I am trying my best. And this is one of those things that I'm hoping will help keep me on my toes. So I didn't check any of those documents and I just had a go. I did have a few stop starts where I would have a go at writing the first few lines of this chapter. I'm working on chapter 2, and then I would say, no, don't like that, need to try it again. So you can see I've got chapter 2 version 1, and then I tried it again, chapter 2 version 2, and they're just a page each. And then I carried on. So I managed to get a fair bit done, even if I was kind of going over things and I was kind of retreading old ground. I really don't want to make a habit of that. The other reason I'm really keen to do this is to break my habit of editing and getting stuck in that editing loop while drafting. I have talked so much on this channel about my love-hate relationship with editing during the drafting phase, and I think it's really important to figure out where you draw the line, otherwise it can be endless. Drafting a book is just such an exercise in discipline. Like, you have to keep showing up for it. You have to really give it time, even when it's tough. It's such a long project that you need to keep showing up, and you need to have a bit of discipline to get through to the end. And I'm going to get to the end of this book. I don't exactly know the path to the end, but I'm just going to give it my best go. I'm coming to the conclusion that the way I write a book is I spend a really long time plowing through tests and beginnings and kind of going over it and over it until I just know it's right. And for another book that I've been I worked on before this, I wrote about 20,000 words for different beginnings and then scrapped all of them. And it really helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And I think on the 5th or 6th beginning, I was like, this is it. I've got it now. I know this is what the book's going to be. That was my gothic dark fantasy, which previous logs have covered me working on. I do want to go back to that. I really love that book, but I did set it aside because I just got really intimidated, and there's loads of reasons, but I just didn't feel I had the skill necessary to complete it. But I do feel that beginning is strong, and it's the beginning that I want. But it took a long time to get there. Now, this book I have done a first draft of. I did it a couple of years ago. I've scrapped it. I've tried writing new beginnings for it, and I've really enjoyed that process, and it's helped me find the beginning that I'm happy with, and I'm happy enough with it to be able to move on. That's the thing that's changed. Is I used to see it as this beginning has to be perfect, has to be exactly right, and obviously there's no such thing as perfect, and that creates its own problems. But now I think of it as it's good for now. It will be edited later, things can change later. Then the best thing to do now is to move forward. So that is really my take on it. So I know for this project that I want to push forward. I don't want to get stuck in an editing loop. It's getting a bit late now, so I'm going to stop here. Going to go and have dinner. I'm going to have a nice relaxing evening, and I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'll see you then. I have a confession to make. I said that I wasn't going to keep rewriting the same scene over and over again. How many versions did I get to? I wrote the beginning of chapter 2 for a third time, so I've got 3 versions in here. The third one is the best, and I think it works. And actually, I did have to refer to my laptop in the end. I have to have a version I'd already written up. I don't even know how many versions I have in total, but I had to have it next to me, and I just took the best of all these different versions. And the difficult thing about this chapter is it is a typical day in the life of my main character. Now, obviously that would be quite boring to read, but we're getting used to who this character is and their world. And she lives in this big old manor house. She has to look after it, and the other 2 people that live there, it's dilapidated, the land is dying, and she's got a lot on her plate. She's got a lot that she has to do. So there's a lot of specifics that I need to get across. Like there's a lot of decisions to make about, you know, what would she tackle first? And then also I wanted to show how this is her normal routine, but I wanted to show it going wrong, and in what way does it go wrong? And these things sound quite minor, and they are minor in terms of the plot, but I'm trying to make decisions that will help us get to know the character and give us a really good insight into the nature of the problems she's facing right now, the challenges, and why they're so complicated and knotty, and why they're so difficult for her. And as I'm saying this, I don't know that my chapter achieves it, but it does it for now. I think I said in my last catch up that like good for now is like the phrase I've been using for this book. It's the only way I can draft and move on. I've set myself a goal to write 2 chapters a week, and that's really tough. It means that I don't have time to dilly-dally. I can't just keep rewriting the same chapter over and over again. I need to push through them, and with the length of my chapters at the moment, it's achievable in a week. I'm not doing super short chapters, but I'm not doing really long chapters, and it's just forcing me to make split-second decisions. So that's been really helpful. I don't know if that's helpful for you guys to hear, if it's something that you're stuck on, like, you know, being indecisive with story decisions while drafting. You know, this is coming from somebody who is more on the planner side than a pantser. So I have a plan for this story, and, you know, I've written a draft of it already that I've scrapped, but it helped me figure out what the story is. And that means that I'm not wasting a lot of time with decision making, but apparently there's still lots of decisions to be made. And I don't like having to make every decision while I'm drafting. I find that really overwhelming. So I have to do quite a bit of planning to feel like I arrive with a bit of a plan. I don't write really detailed plans. I tend to just have a line or two, and I just know what I'm going to do based off of that. Like there's a lot of stuff that I will attach to that sentence that I already know. Like I know what the trees look like at this house, but I'm not going to put that in my plan. That's a weird example, but I think you know what I mean. All this to say, the decision making is really difficult for me sometimes with writing. I'm terrified of making the wrong decision, and it all comes back to perfectionism, as is the way. So giving myself a purposeful goal is helping me combat that, because I just don't have time. I have to keep going, and the goal really matters to me. It matters to me in the more immediate term more than getting it perfect first time. That makes sense. Because that's the thing with perfectionism. You can't just say, it doesn't matter, it can be terrible. I think that does work for some people. It's never worked for me. So I have to tip the balance and say, well, what do I care about more? You know, maybe getting it perfect right now is important to me, but maybe not as important as just getting it down. And then as soon as I've got it down, I can come back to this goal and I can edit it and I can make it perfect later. Yeah, it's helping me get through, I think. I've got to trick the old brain into doing it and not overthinking it. And you know what's really funny is reflecting on it now is like a weird form of therapy. I'm like psychoanalyzing myself, and I'm trying not to overthink it, but it's very funny thinking about how and why we work the ways we work, and it's just such a constant process, like figuring out how you work best. I've seen that advice before, and actually I included that advice in my drafting a book video, where I included like questions to ask yourself before you go into drafting a book, and I asked myself all those questions before I started this process, and it was really helpful. I won't go into them here, but I'll include a link in the description if you are interested in finding out what those questions are. A lot of them are to do with story and with character, but the questions that help me the most are things like figuring out the best way that you work. You know, can you set yourself a goal, and what does that goal look like? And so I've had mixed success. I am finding it painfully slow, and I wish it wasn't so slow. And I always think about my laptop and how much quicker typing is. But I have committed to this, and actually it's been really nice not looking at a screen. I know I said before that I was referring to a screen for some of this writing, and that is true, but I wasn't looking at a screen nearly enough as, you know, as much as I would have otherwise. I think for a lot of people, your day job is 8 hours of looking at a screen, so you don't really want to be doing that in your spare time. I think that's what can be really exhausting about writing as a hobby or trying to draft a book in your free time. It's just the sheer number of hours you end up putting yourself in front of a screen. So this has been great, and we're going to carry on and see how we get on. I'm so glad that I got all of that on camera, and I'm so sorry if it makes you cringe. It actually makes me cringe looking back at that footage of me cutting my finger, getting a paper cut with my notebook. I was so repulsed by the blood on my notebook. I cut out parts of each page that the blood was on. It went on quite a lot of pages, and it went on a page that I was writing on. Where is it? Yeah, I'm not going to show you because it's quite gross. Today isn't going to plan. I had written really well in the cafe, and then I thought, it's so nice outside, and the cafe was kind of noisy, and I was, just a bit hot and bothered, and I was like, I just want to be outside. Went and found a nice bench, and yeah, just sliced my finger open within a few minutes of being there. But it just really sliced through, and it felt so vile. And I came home, I was really distracted. I just wanted a cup of tea. I wanted some peace and quiet. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but the cafe was really overstimulating. I forgot that it's the summer holidays, so there were a lot of kids around, kind of running around, having a good old time. And it wasn't maybe the best location to be trying to really focus and concentrate. Like, I had my headphones in, but I was just sat near the door, and I was conscious that like people were running past. I think going to the park was a good idea. I just didn't anticipate slicing my finger open. And actually I was going to carry on, but it was bleeding so much that I was like, I'm just bleeding everywhere now. So not really something I wanted to be doing in public. Decided to come home, and then I didn't do anything. I read my book, I watched TV, didn't think about my book. I just kind of gave up for the day, I suppose. It's only Wednesday, so I still have plenty of time to get back on track. I haven't written an awful lot, to be honest, and I'm only filming this now in the time that my partner is making dinner, because it's what I did yesterday, and honestly, it is a nice little window of time where I can yap but not go off on too many tangents. And it's so funny, I don't think I would have done that unless I had been doing this particular challenge, or even thought about my day in terms of like little segments of time that I can just snatch and do something with, rather than like scrolling on my phone or I don't know, doing whatever. Because that's what I've been doing with this notebook, like getting it out and writing something, even if it's just a line or two or a note for later. It's so easy and it's so quick. Obviously I could use my phone or a laptop, but the possibility of me getting sidetracked and doing something else on my phone or my laptop for 20 minutes is so high, and there's just no chance of that happening with this. Even if I look at old writing, I can't really edit it beyond writing in the margins, and I kind of do that while I'm drafting anyway. Like I'll cross out a little bit, and then I'll add an asterisk here, or I'll do something, but I don't do an awful lot of it. But I don't want to clutter up the pages too much, so it stops me from doing that. And that's so weird now that I'm thinking about it. That's like perfectionism, like inverted. This is not perfect. The pages are messy. I'm not going to show you because I'm a little bit sensitive about my bad writing. But the fact is, I'm trying to preserve these pages in kind of a perfectionism-y way, because I don't want to clutter them up with extra writing. And that's good perfectionism. That's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but it's good perfectionism because it's helping me reach the goal I want, which is just keep moving, stop editing, stop writing in the margin, just move on, go do the next chapter, which is better than the bad perfectionism of constantly editing. And that's something that I really don't like about working on Word or Google Docs, which I definitely do and definitely will again in the future. So when I open the document, I'm greeted with chapter 1, like the beginning, and I have to go find my place again. I do have Scrivener and I've used it in the past and I've liked it. I don't think I like it for drafting. I like it for editing. It's amazing for editing. But again, I struggle with the distraction of having all those subsections that you can pick from, and if I pop into that chapter and pop into that one. But there are so many things about Scrivener that I really love. This challenge has kind of been a way for me to find another method that might work for me. I'm probably going to find out that yes, there is not one perfect method that will do everything I need to do. And I realize a lot of the different cons of these various writing methods are to do with me. I'm the one getting distracted. I'm the one procrastinating. So I am working on that too. I'm gonna go, I'll be back tomorrow, and I really hope that that is a slightly more productive day, because I'm conscious that I'm not actually getting a lot written. I still don't know how many words I'm writing, but I know that I'm not progressing through the chapter the way that I would want. We're halfway through the week, and in theory I should have chapter 2 finished so I can work on chapter 3 and get both of them finished by the end of the week. I'm not finished with chapter 2. I still have a few different things I need to put into that chapter, so I don't know. Trying our best, hoping for the best. We'll see how it goes. have a lot of thoughts about writing by hand, and I'm going to save them for a bigger reflection. But for now, what I am really noticing is that I'll be writing by hand. I will just get a paragraph or maybe a page down. I'll run out of steam for a moment and I'll look up and I'll look around me, and maybe it's because my hand aches or I just reach the end of a thought or something that prompts me to look around. Those moments are happening a lot more frequently than I think happen when I'm typing, and I don't really know why. I also want to talk about writing every day because this challenge has inadvertently made me write every day, and that wasn't something that I really thought about. I just thought, oh well, obviously if I'm going to write by hand for a week, I've got to try it every single day. But I don't really write every day. I think I talked about this earlier on in the video. I don't think you should have to write every day. I don't think it matters necessarily. I think you need to make it a regular habit that you're really motivating yourself to go and do. But that's only if you have a big goal, like writing a whole novel by a certain date, like I do. There are a few different methods that I know people swear by. One of them is making a date of it, so you know that at a certain time in a certain place you will be there and you will be writing. I have used that a little bit this week, especially when I've been writing in the evenings after work, but I know it doesn't always work for people. My schedule can be really unpredictable. I work as a freelance graphic designer, so sometimes a project comes in, I'm working on it kind of all hours until it's done, and then sometimes I get my work done early, sometimes I'm working at the weekend. It's such a mixed bag. I can't predict it, and I want it that way. I don't want my writing time to dictate my work time, because that's just going to cause unnecessary stress. Like realistically, I can move my writing, so I will. But this week, kind of making myself have writing dates where I write for an hour or two in the evening has been really nice. I found that rather than being intimidated by that time, I've been looking forward to it, especially when I'm tired at my desk and I'm looking at my screen and I'm thinking, I'm gonna just put some nice music on in my headphones later and I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna write by hand. The other practicality of writing every day is being able to have the tools and the resources that you need, and that's why writing by hand in a notebook is so excellent, because I've been to a few different places this week where I've needed to quickly grab my writing utensils and add to my story. I've been able to fill those odd times where I'm waiting with writing. Hello, so my camera SD card was full, so that was fun. Stopped me mid-sentence, and I went and made a cup of tea. I did everything I needed to do, and now I'm back again. As I was saying, writing by hand in a notebook has allowed me to make the best use of those little weird waiting times, and that was really great to do during a week where I had so many errands. I feel like I was out of the house a lot, and I don't always get out of the house very much. I think that's the curse of working from home, and also working for yourself. If I don't have to go somewhere, I kind of won't. But because I knew I was filming, I wanted to take you guys along to fun places and just not always have to film in my flat. I am actually about to move, so I'm living in this tiny little dinky flat in York. I love it. It's really cute, but it is a bit too small for us, and we've been waiting for our house to be ready for a little while. Hopefully very soon we will be moving into it. Got a few little things left to iron out. I think I'm just over filming here. My desk is in the corner of our living room, so I'm very ready to have a new place to work that is just for writing and just for working, rather than it kind of encroaching on the space that I like to relax in. But all of that is by the by. I've got one day left of this challenge. I'm going to be writing by hand again tomorrow. I really thought I would have dropped the ball by now and not written every day. I'm really glad I haven't, but I won't lie, I don't think I've written very much, and that doesn't make me hopeful for being able to continue writing by hand. I just don't know that I can completely justify it purely for right now. I'm not saying I'm never going to write by hand again, or I'm not going to draft by hand, because I thought it was amazing. There were so many pros to it. I'm probably going to talk about it in more depth tomorrow, but no matter how lovely it is, I just don't seem to have the stamina and the pace to be able to write lots and lots. And for this book especially, once I decided I was going to have it drafted by the end of the summer, I want to draft it by the end of the summer. Like, I know that these goals are just set by me and that they are movable, but this one really matters to me, and I'm okay with getting the draft mostly down. Say I get really stuck at the ending and I don't know how to tie up my loose ends and I don't know how to finish the book, I'm okay with leaving the last 5 or 10% unwritten, or maybe just notes or something, and then I'll come back to it. But most of this book has to be written by the end of the summer, and I'm committing to that on camera now, which is really good because now I'm definitely going to have to do it. But I feel confident. I feel like I have been making progress. I feel feel like I know this story and I'm ready to get it down. And drafting by hand is making it really slow and frustrating. I don't know that I have the time to keep doing it that way. Don't miss typing. It's not very glamorous. It's not very fun, but it is quick. I've written quite a lot of chapter 2 and chapter 3 in my notebook, but there is a scene in chapter 3 that exists on my computer, and I'm not going to copy it out in my notebook. Like, that would be silly. That's, you know, not going to help me get the book down. I think the impulse to do that is definitely perfectionism. The idea that I want the entire chapter to live in this notebook, it's unnecessary. I don't need to do that. But what it has meant is I have a bit of a chapter here, a bit of a chapter there, and if I continue, as I think I will, writing by hand, it will be in support of typing. So I'm gonna have to label everything really carefully. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm not creating a huge mess for myself, so that when I come to editing or collating the draft all together, it's not really confusing and I don't lose anything or put something in the wrong place. So I have been thinking about that, and I put off for as long as possible kind of making a spreadsheet of like where things were, and in the end I just did it. I'm gonna save the rest of my thoughts for tomorrow and give a proper reflection on writing by hand, how this week's gone, where I'm up to with my book and everything else. So I'll see you then. Hello. It has been a week. I've had a few days to collect my thoughts, sort of think about how it's been. I talked a lot about the practicalities of writing by hand, the pros and the cons. Me personally, I found it slow. I found it frustrating, but I also found it great at banishing perfectionism, working around distractions. It didn't give me that clarity of thought and intense focus that I was hoping, but I think it could. I definitely want to keep writing by hand and make it part of my practice, because it's so easy after a long day to say, I can't bear to look at my laptop screen. In fact, it's better that I rest my eyes than I do any writing. And that's great. I don't think people should write every day. I think I've said that so many times already just in this video, but I don't think you should have to write every day to call yourself a writer or to actually get anything done. I think a lot of published authors don't write every single day, but I am on a deadline and I'm drafting this book. So I do want to write more days than not. I'm trying to write maybe 6 days a week. I did 7 days for this challenge and it was hard, not impossible, but I don't think I wrote very much per session or per day. Ideally, I would be writing more each time I sat down to write and sort of make a real contribution to the book. I'm not one of those writers that can jump in and out and add a sentence here and there. I need uninterrupted focus time. I need to feel like I've really made a dent and I've moved the story forward, so that when I come back and kind of doing something different, despite how easily I find myself editing over and over, I don't really like treading over old ground. I find it really repetitive and boring, and at that point I struggle to look at what I'm writing objectively. I mean, that's difficult anyway, but I can't tell if the scene's boring anymore. It's boring me writing it and working on it over and over and not getting to look at anything else in the book. So writing by hand has been great. So the more I can avoid that, the better. I've been thinking a lot about the discipline it takes to write a book and how writing a novel when you are an unpublished, unagented writer is completely unnecessary. And I don't mean that to be really pessimistic, because it doesn't mean that isn't worthwhile. I think if you're serious about writing a book, you have to make a commitment. You have to find some inner motivation to keep yourself going, inner discipline to keep yourself showing up. And I talked a little bit about how I'm figuring out how to get the best out of myself and how I work best. And it's so funny, the things that I do in my day-to-day job work really well for me, but they wouldn't work for me in writing. Like, I've pretty much defeated perfectionism in my day job. I feel really good about the work I put out. I always hit my deadlines. Like, I don't have the same hang-ups in my day job as I do with writing, but I don't know that those lessons translate across to like a different creative practice. And I find this stuff endlessly fascinating because we are such complicated creatures, and books and ideas and creativity comes from seemingly nowhere. So the process of getting it down is so magical and strange and always changing, and everybody's going to do it differently. And that's why I love hearing about other writers' processes. Obviously, this video was very much inspired by my good friend Jessica George's approach to drafting, where she drafts all of her books by hand, which I still think is amazing. And now that I've tried it for a week, I'm even more in awe of her and any other writer who writes considerably by hand. I've met a couple in my time, and I do think everybody should try it. It's been amazing, and I'm sure that different writers bring something different to the experience, and it's just different to them, because I had so many unexpected discoveries while I was doing it. And one thing I really want to talk about is how I think my style changed. I was definitely a lot less precious with my words. I didn't cycle through a bunch of words or even search word and then synonym in Google to try and find the best word. I just picked the one that I could reach for in the moment, and I thought best described, or did the best job of what I was trying to do with that sentence, and then moved on. I think because I had to keep moving on, my writing became more sparse and cleaner, and I love that because that's something I'm really striving to improve. But at the same time, I was slipping up with including things that I know I'm going to edit out, so maybe slightly weaker words that are a bit unspecific, maybe cliches, adverbs, like things that I'm naturally going to want to polish. But it's definitely okay for now. And what I found was I was so eager to get to the next bit of the story or get the next idea in my head down that I didn't care so much, so I just let it go and moved on. But I do wonder if other writers find the same thing, or if there's other things that crop up for them that wouldn't really crop up for me. It felt like the most pure method of writing, because there's something really pure about your actual handwriting on a physical page. Like anything typed or a Word document, it just more closely resembles an ebook or an actual book. So it's very easy to kind of see what you're writing through the lens of the finished article, and that's not helpful at all for drafting. You don't want to feel like you need to compare it to a published book. That's so intimidating, and it's just like for a draft, it's just not worth it. So for that reason, I do love drafting by hand. So how did I actually get on this week? So in the end, I estimated that each page was roughly 160 words. I wrote 32 pages, which I'm really proud of, and actually hadn't counted that, so I didn't know that I wrote 32 pages. So I wrote 5,120 words this week, roughly. I don't know the exact number. I'm pretty proud of that. I do think I put in so much time that normally I would have written more. So it's a bit of a strange feeling, because I have 5,000 words that I hadn't written before this week, but I can't help but feel a bit sad about the fact that if I typed, I would have written more. But I wonder if the quality of the writing is better. I've also found that I've been really looking forward to writing by hand, which I didn't expect at all. I really thought my hand would ache and I would just associate it with pain, especially after that nasty paper cut. But no, I've been really looking forward to it, and I'm definitely going to keep it as part of my practice going forward. I had a really great time filming this video, and it was so great taking you guys along with me on my adventures. It definitely didn't work out the way I planned, but I did get some writing done, and honestly, I think that's all that matters. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!